This trip, while it may seem like it's long and arduous, can actually be the most restorative, educational, visually pleasing and entertaining time that I would not have had the opportunity or made time to put in place otherwise. And that is how I go into it every time. By implementing this strategy, I reduce the stress as a result of the delays. I'm more creative in how I can spend that 6 or 7 hours. I save up listening material. I recently discovered the free quarterly essays on Audible. They fit beautifully into a trip. And I arrive at the other end feeling good, rather than a stressed out, road raged maniac, or bored out of my brain and falling asleep at the wheel. Hi there, lovelies. I'm Rhonda Crimes. I'm a life and leadership coach, supporting everyday people just like you to reflect and rework your everyday stories, so you can step into the everyday leadership of your families and communities and create compelling, meaningful and fruitful lives every day. Today, let's talk about reframing difficulties as opportunities. You know, when you hit on a book that just makes complete sense for you, like it was written just for you? This is how I feel about Burnout, The Secret to Solving the Stress Cycle by Emily and Amelia Nagoski. A gift brought to me through synchronicity and universal magic as I began to explore my burnout journey and discover what I can do to prevent it happening again as I take my business to the next level. So last week you met Moni the monitor, the small part of us in our brain that decides if we should keep going or stop trying. I shared how we use a strategy the Nagoski sisters call planful problem solving to manage, cope and influence our brain when faced with controllable stresses. That is, what we can do to take care of the things we can anticipate and control. The link for that episode is in the notes, so do check it out if you'd like more info on that. But what about the things that are outside our control? We can't make a list to cover what we don't know might happen. And if we try, we'll go down a speculation and projection rabbit hole that will never end. And frankly, no one has the time or energy for that. So, what the Nagoskis propose for us is when we're stuck in a stressor we can't control, like being stuck in that traffic jam on the way to work that I spoke of in the last episode, is to use the strategy they call positive reappraisal. Now, before you get all fluffy on me and think it's about finding rainbows and unicorns from every shitty thing that happens to us, let me tell you, that is not what it is. Positive reappraisal, according to Emily and Amelia, is deciding that the effort, the discomfort, the frustration, the unanticipated obstacles, and even the repeated failure have value, not just because they're steps toward a worthwhile goal, but because you reframe difficulties as opportunities for growth and learning. Natural optimists do this all the time. They are not looking for the pot of gold under every rainbow, but they have a trusting faith and hope that things will improve, that what is happening now will pass, and the impacts of the experiences or events will not solely determine their future. Natural pessimists, on the other hand, see things very differently. They view the experiences and events as part of something bigger that is probably not going to end well, if it ever ends at all. So as I've tried to convey, this strategy is not about being all Pollyanna. Rather, it's acknowledging that things might be difficult right now. But in the bigger picture, the difficulty is worth the effort or discomfort. And actually, it's an opportunity to learn and grow. Positive reappraisal is a 3-step strategy. 1. Acknowledge when things are difficult. 2. Acknowledge that the difficulty is worth it. And 3. Acknowledge that those difficulties are actually opportunities. I was thinking if I practice this strategy and realised, yeah, of course I do. I am quite literally an eternal optimist. So I wanted to share a very everyday story about how I do this. Pretty much every time I've driven to Perth for the last 9 years. But as I thought about it, I realised it's become much more prevalent these days. In more recent times, I have grown really comfortable staying in Kalgoorlie. But I know it's good for me to get out of town to connect and play with my family and friends in the Perth suburbs. Or, quite simply, I have to attend some appointments down there. However, that usually involves around a 6 or 7 hour drive one way. And that can be difficult. It means I usually have to get up really early to get away. Or arrive at my destination really late. It means I can't do what I would normally be doing during that 6 or 7 hour block of time travelling each way. So there is a very real potential for me to fall behind in my routine. It means I have to prepare for more than just a quick catch-up in town. I need to pack a case with a variety of clothes for each outing, including to remember toiletries, medications, and technology cables. I may or may not have forgotten that a couple of times. I need to organise if Mowgli is going to be coming with me or being looked after at home. I need to make sure I'm heading out with a full tank of fuel, keep my car fully serviced and maintained, including its tyres, at all times. I need to organise where I'm staying. Sometimes I even have to relocate during a visit. When I break it up like that, it already feels hard. Lots of pieces to connect for what is sometimes a 1 hour appointment. But as I hope you noticed, most of that falls under the planful problem solving. They are the things I generally have control over. However, much of the 600 kilometre drive is remote. There is a 150 kilometre stretch between Yellowdine and Coolgardie where there are no houses, farms, towns or roadhouses, just the road and the bush on either side. So many people who make the trip say this is the most boring part of the whole drive, where they lament there is nothing to look at. Except maybe to be on the lookout for the stray animals ranging from small snakes, lizards and birds through to larger kangaroos and emus. They don't all know to stay in the bush and off the roads. There are also roadworks. It's a major highway linking Australia's east to the west. It gets a lot of hard use. Because it is a main transport artery, there are also the overlength road trains who always seem to manage to get clustered together along the way. So finding a safe place to overtake can take time. And this adds to the duration and frustration as well. Oh, and then there are the oversized loads, huge and heavy pieces of mining equipment moving as slowly as 40 or 60 kilometres an hour on the backs of the trucks, with pilot escort vehicles deciding when you can pass for you. Some trips you've got to ask, are you ever going to get there? So as you can imagine, a good portion of the trip going well and staying on time is outside my control. I do planfully problem solve the stuff I can control, but the rest, well, that's really just up to the gods to decide. But I am optimistic, and I reframe this to be an opportunity for me to catch up on my podcasts, to be able to listen to that great audio book I want to get on with. Sometimes, usually on the way home, all I want is silence, and I can have that in abundance. Then, if it takes a little longer, it means I get to listen longer, or have more time to decompress and let my introverted tendencies recover from all the action they've had in the past few days. This trip, while it may seem like it's long and arduous, can actually be the most restorative, educational, visually pleasing and entertaining time that I would not have had the opportunity or made time to put in place otherwise. And that is how I go into it every time. By implementing this strategy, I reduce the stress as a result of the delays. I'm more creative in how I can spend that 6 or 7 hours. I save up listening material. I recently discovered the free quarterly essays on Audible. They fit beautifully into a trip. And I arrive at the other end feeling good, rather than a stressed out, road raged maniac, or bored out of my brain and falling asleep at the wheel. I know these long trips have honed my driving abilities. I'm happy to drive anywhere. Side note. On an actual road, I'm not up for the outback bush wandering like my menfolk. Although, equally, I'm pretty confident I could reappraise that if I needed to. Hell, I can even go camping without flushing toilets now, something I would never have done in the past. Is it difficult for me to not go in a private cubicle? Oh yes, absolutely. I don't enjoy the vulnerability and spaciousness of that moment. But I do love the sand dunes, the pristine beach, the time literally on the sea to replenish, to be. So that moment of discomfort and difficulty is totally worth it. Also, to compound the benefits and highlight a major growth opportunity, I have now overcome what was almost a bigger than Ben-Hur toileting trauma / habit that I'd carried with me since I was a small girl. And now, just to get all nerdy and technical for those who need it, Emily and Amelia Nagoski say, reappraisal even changes our brain functioning. The dorsolateral prefrontal cortex activates, which damps the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, which damps the amygdala, which reduces the stress response, which, in everyday speak for the rest of us, means there's a chain reaction in our brain that changes, and our primal animal brain doesn't have to hijack us into an intense, agitated frenzy. Check out my vlog, The Amygdala Hijack Wars, to learn more about that. I'll link to it in the notes. So next time something happens or you're in a situation that is outside of your control, think how you might reappraise the situation using these 3 steps. 1. Acknowledge when things are difficult. 2. Acknowledge that the difficulty is worth it. And 3. Acknowledge that those difficulties are actually opportunities. What have you got to lose other than a big load of stress? I hope this has been useful, and if through this message you see that your now is not the picture that you've painted for yourself and you'd like any help on this discovery path, or maybe something completely different that you intuitively know or feel isn't letting your true colours shine through, then please get in touch with me. You can do it really easily by leaving a comment, sending me a private message, or popping over to my brand new website, rondacrimes.simplero.com, and go to the Contact Me page that now houses the email and Calendly online diary options. If you know or feel you're hitting your "I've had enough of this" set point, let's set up a free curiosity call to have a chat and see how I can support you, and also make sure we are a good fit for each other without any obligations. Much love. Until next time.